Good morning. Thanks for coming to see my session. So I'm Kenneth. I come from Malta, so it's quite a bit far away. I'm an AWS hero, and my passion is networking and security. So today we're going to talk about a number of services. So the first one is how we're going to implement egress flows and also east-west inspection with those flows. We're going to talk about the network firewall and also about the Route 53 resolver firewall. And lastly, we're going to cover the key takeaways and to summarize what we're going to discuss. So let's start. So from an introduction perspective, we have a typical setup, which is basically some EC2s talking over to the internet. So what is going to happen? First of all, we are going to have the first DNS query. It goes to the VPC DNS. The second one, the DNS server from Amazon will get the necessary information to start initiating the connection, gives that information back to the EC2. The EC2 forwards the traffic to the NAT gateway, from there to the internet gateway, and then the last part is to receive the return traffic. So till now, everything okay, just a normal connection without any issues at all. So no security, you can talk to whatever you want. So at DNS level, the first thing that we can do is we can implement some protection. So we can use the Route 53 DNS firewall. Secondly, at a network level, we can use also the network firewall. So you're going to hear these two products, the DNS firewall and the network firewall, quite a lot. So one important point that I see is that they complement each other. I love the way that you can implement protection, both at DNS level and at the network firewall, and it goes in line with the defense in-depth approach. So this is a very basic setup, which both the DNS firewall and the network firewall fits well. Let's complicate a bit the network setup. So we're going to start with transit gateways and direct connects. So we have a normal transit gateway. It has VPCs. We have another transit gateway, another region, another VPC. Yes, but I want remote connectivity. So we start with VPNs. Transit gateway support IPsec, so we can connect through partners to remote offices, whatever you want. And also, you can have direct connects, which gives direct connectivity to the internal network within your VPC using a direct connect gateway, and you associate that direct connect gateway with transit gateway. So this is one scenario. So where we can apply the security parts. So we can do it at VPC level, similar to what we have seen before. We can do it also at the direct connections, at the flows from there, and also for the VPNs. So we have multiple places where we can put protection. So in this case, we're going to use the network firewall. So next setup, Cloud WAN. So a simple Cloud WAN setup with some segments. So we have the direct connect gateways. Lately, there was the feature introduced that you can interact direct connect with gateways with Cloud WAN. So that was a very good enhancement rather than to have transit gateways. And also you have the VPCs. So again, when it comes to security, where we can implement security, we can do it at the segment level, we can do it at the direct connect level, and similarly at the VPC level. When it comes to Cloud WAN, there is the network function group and service insertion. And obviously you can use with network firewall. So let's talk a bit now on the network firewall. So what is the network firewall? So one of the good features of the network firewall is that it can scale up to 100G. So that is quite a lot. And also it offers an SLA of 99.99. You can use it for ingress, egress, filtering, east-west inspection, and it can be a stateful or stateless managed service. So you can create rules based on those. You can easily integrate it with Transit Gateway and Cloud WAN. When it comes to Transit Gateway, yesterday there was a big announcement that you can integrate much more easily Network Firewall. And also, the Network Firewall can be managed through the Firewall Manager. So the Firewall Manager gives you a complete view if you want to create baselines, and if you have multiple VPCs or multiple implementations, you can enforce those baselines through the Firewall Manager. And most importantly, you can create alerts, you can create rules, and you can have your own rules or the AWS managed rules. And one of the, I would say, a very good feature is that you can integrate this. You can also integrate it with Security Hub. It's cloud native, and you always pay per use, so no upfront commitments. So let's start with the stateful rule groups. So the stateful rule groups are divided into, so first we have the AWS managed rule groups, and then we have the user rule groups. So when it comes to managed rule groups, you have domain and IP rule groups. You have the newly announced rule groups, which are the active threat defense rule groups, and also the threat signature rule groups. For the user lists, for the user rule groups, you have domain lists that you can do. You can have standard IP-based rules, and not lastly, you can create the Suricata rule-based. So that gives quite a lot of flexibility when it comes to create rules. So since this was launched yesterday, I'm just going to mention it briefly. So a new mechanism or the active threat defense rule groups were defined. Basically, it includes protection against malware staging URLs, botnet and command and control service, and crypto mining pools. So in practice, this is what you're going to see. So you're going to have those two, and if you want to activate them, you just need to select them. Another new feature that was announced very recently is the geo-based IP filtering. So basically now Network Firewall, you can use rules to block certain countries for accessing, blocking, allowing, etc. So these can be applied into different, so you can match selected countries, you can match all except, you can apply, this can be applied at the source, you can apply it at the destination, or both. So it gives you the full functionality that you require normally to operate the geo-blocking. And you can also have conjunction with the normal stuff, which is protocols, source, destination, and IP port matching. So that is quite good. So some unpopular things are not much known. So what is stream exception policy? So faults occur, or there are issues with the network firewall. So some of the cases would be firewall resources exhausted. You can have break-in midstream sessions for whatever reason. TCP segments are having out of sequence. Long-lived connections exceeding firewall timeouts. Protocol violations. So what is going to happen? So there are three options. So the default is the drop, which means that if some of these conditions happen, the connection is dropped silently without no awareness from the application. So depending on your applications, it could be okay or it could be not okay. The second option is to continue. So just basically ignore that the state happened and it will continue. And the last one is the reset. So basically similar as the drop, but it will notify the client and the server using a TCP reset. Again, depending on the applications that you have, you need to fine-tune this. What is important is that you monitor it using CloudWatch, and if you're going to see a lot of streams exception policy, you need to check and investigate. Sometimes, unfortunately, this is taken for granted, which could lead to application issues. And unfortunately, I experienced that. So that's why I'm mentioning it here. Some new stuff, the traffic analysis mode. So basically, it's very easy to activate. It's just a tick box. But what you gain is that you have insights of the traffic for the last 30 days. So basically, you get the most frequent access domains, the date and time that were first accessed, number of access attempts per domain, last accessed, unique source IPs, and also whether it was HTTP or HTTPS. And again, that's a simple report that you can get. So this is quite a nice feature to avoid situations where the teams come to you, yeah, but we need to protect the egress. But I don't know what traffic is there. So this at least gives you a very good idea to have what is going on. And there is some reference if you want to scan the QR code. There is more information on this new feature, which it should help quite a lot of people if you're in the situation where you don't know your traffic. Okay. All right. So, anyone of the photos left? Okay, there's another one. All right, let's continue. So, how do we set up the AWS Network Firewall? So, step one, you create the firewall, obviously, but you need to do it. Second step, you choose the VPCs and the subnet for the firewall. Always important, use multi-AZs. If you don't go with 3, at least go with 2. But it's important to deploy always with multi-AZ approach. So, activate traffic analysis mode. It's new, it's important to gain insight what's going on, and it can also help to optimize the rules if you go with the custom rules. You need to create and bind the firewall policy. Next step is to make sure that you have the monitoring and logging. Take care of the stream exception policy. And remember about the AWS managed rules. These are there. They are from AWS. They see a lot of traffic, and these rules are fine-tuned based on these traffic flows that they see, the bad behaviors, the bad actors, etc. And obviously, your own custom firewall rules. So, based on that, you can create the firewalls. Now, the last step is Suricata rules. They can be a bit of a pain to configure, but they give you a lot of visibility. So, tools like from Suricata, you can have like blocking like old ciphers, that kind of thing. So, Suricata are very good to increase the security. And lastly, you have the TLS inspection. So you can intercept the traffic and you can gain more insights on the TLS. So, how we're going to deploy with VPC and transit gateways. So you have a standard VPC. You have the firewall endpoint that is created. You create a firewall subnet, and then you route the traffic from the private subnet to pass to the firewall endpoints. And from there, the firewall endpoints or the network firewall forward to the NAT gateway, and then from the NAT gateway, you go to the IGW. As I said before, it's important that you use the multi-AZ approach. And there was a last feature that was released very recently. Now you can associate the same network firewall with multiple VPCs. Transit gateway, similar approach. So you attach the VPC where there is the network firewall, you attach it to the transit gateway, and then you route the traffic accordingly. And there are 2 QR codes if you want to see them on how to deploy this. Okay. Next one. So Cloud WAN. So Cloud WAN, there is a very nice feature, which is, again, the setup is the same, just instead of transit gateway, it's Cloud WAN, but there is an interesting feature, which is the network function groups. So basically with the network function groups, you can associate, you attach where is the network firewall, the network function group, and then you have service insertion. This is the network function group, you create it, and then you have the service insertion. You have two options, send via, which means that you're going to have segment from 2, and then you forward it to the network function group. One thing to notice, there is the single and the dual hop, which means that if you have multi-region, you can do either one inspection or 2 inspections. And also there is the other option, which is the send to, so any traffic from a particular segment, just forward it to the network function group. So that's for Cloud WAN. So changing the topic, we have DNS. So DNS can be abused. So one of the things which we're going to check now is that's the reference for the link. So quickly, all right, let's continue. So now we're going to talk about the Route 53 resolver DNS firewall. So DNS firewall for Route 53 resolvers, it has like network firewall managed rules. You have the ability to create deny list or allow list with custom actions. And lately there was the advanced protection for DG and DNS tunneling. And you can get decent logs and detailed logs and metrics. So these are the components. You have rule groups, you have rules, you have custom or managed domain lists, and you're going to create an action, and you need to associate with VPCs. So in order for the DNS firewall to be active, you need to associate it with the VPC. So the advanced feature, so basically there are two main features. So the first one is, so we have the DNS tunneling and you have the domain generation algorithm. So if someone is abusing, these will help mitigate that. In terms of blocking or alerting, my preference is to have medium and high as block and low as alert. And findings can be forwarded to the security hubs. So that would be the alerts, and that would be the findings for the security hub. So Route 53 profiles, I would say this is the secret sauce for DNS config. So quickly, you can centralize the Route 53 configuration across multiple VPCs. You can associate DNS firewall groups, route resolver rules, and you can associate private hosted zones. And you can set the default configuration for DNS. Just one thing to note, it can be pricey. So there is a base price for 100 VPCs. If you extend those 100, the cost can go quite high. So similarly what we did with the network firewall, we're going to do with the DNS firewall. So first we have the domain lists. Secondly, we have the rule groups, custom domain lists, rules for managed domains from AWS, rules for advanced protection, association of VPCs, share, support sharing, and you also associate it with the firewall manager, which can control the Route 53 resolver DNS firewall. So transit gateway and DNS firewall. So you implement the DNS firewall at the VPC level. You integrate it with transit gateway, and then you're going to have the egress VPC or the east-west inspection connected to the transit gateway, and they route the traffic accordingly. These can be merged, but depends on the functionality that you wish. You can use them that way. I personally prefer them to have them separate. Obviously, it's more costly. So if you need to cater for cost, then one is enough. So Cloud WAN, so same situation. You have the DNS resolvers at the VPC level, and then we have the network function group with service insertion, as we have seen before, attached to the inspection VPC. And you can forward the egress VPC traffic for egress there also. So key takeaways. So most importantly, I think this is the crucial one. Use defense in depth approach. Use both the network firewall and the DNS firewall. Integrate findings to Security Hub. And for the network firewall, enable the traffic analysis mode, monitor the stream exception policy, and enable the DNS advanced. And if you're a bit worried about the implementation, start with the AWS managed routes, even if it's alerting. At least you have something. And most importantly, make sure that there is the process to verify the routes. Thank you.